Let's get straight to the point. Number 8. Attention is not a personality trait. People talk about attention as if it's a character flaw. You just need better focus. You lack discipline. You're bad at concentrating. That framing feels intuitive. It's also wrong. Attention is not a personality trait. It is not a moral quality. It is not something you either possess or don't. Attention is a biological system. It is governed by neural circuits that evolved to solve a very specific problem, detect change, evaluate whether that change matters, and respond quickly. That's it. Your brain did not evolve to sit still and focus on abstract tasks for hours at a time. It evolved to notice what changed in the environment, a sound, a movement, a sudden difference from a moment ago. In the past, ignoring change could get you killed, so your brain treats novelty as priority. This is not a flaw, it is survival logic. The problem is that modern environments are built almost entirely out of novelty. Your attention system is no longer being triggered occasionally, it is being triggered constantly. Modern digital systems do not weaken your attention, they continuously redirect it. Every alert, every refresh, every scroll trains your brain to stay externally oriented, always scanning, always ready to switch. And once your brain adapts to that pattern, sustained focus stops feeling natural. Not because you're incapable, but because the system you're relying on was repurposed. Number 7, novelty always beats importance. Your brain does not rank information by value, it ranks it by difference. Something that changes rapidly will always outcompete something that stays stable, even if the stable thing is meaningful, important, or personally chosen. That's why a single notification can pull your focus away from a serious conversation. That's why a random headline feels more compelling than a task you deliberately sat down to do. This is not weakness, it is wiring. Each swipe, scroll, or refresh introduces something slightly different, a new image, a new phrase, a new emotional signal. Your attention system reacts automatically, not because the content matters, but because it is new. Over time, your brain learns a simple rule: pay attention to what changes fastest. Meaning is slower than novelty. Depth takes time. Stability doesn't trigger alarms, so importance gets demoted. You don't consciously choose this. Your brain does it for you. And once that rule is reinforced thousands of times a day, it becomes your default mode of attention. This is why tasks that require sustained engagement feel harder than they should, not because they are difficult, but because they do not provide constant novelty. Your brain is waiting for something else to happen. Number 6, your focus ramp keeps getting reset. Deep focus does not happen instantly. There is always a ramp-up phase. The first few minutes feel uncomfortable. Your brain resists committing resources. You feel restless. You feel an urge to escape. That discomfort is normal, or at least it used to be. In the past, if you stayed with that discomfort, something happened. Momentum kicked in. The task became easier to stay with. Now that ramp almost never completes. Why? Because it keeps getting reset. Even brief interruptions, a glance, a vibration, a quick check, restart the process. Not partially, completely. Your brain has to rebuild context from zero, and after enough resets, your attention system learns another rule: do not fully commit. You will not be allowed to finish anyway, so it stays shallow. You might sit at your desk for hours, you might technically be working, but nothing ever locks in. Your brain never enters a deep enough state to stabilize attention. This is why modern work feels exhausting even when it isn't hard. You are not tired from effort. You are tired from restarting, again and again and again. You weren't unfocused. You were never given the conditions required for focus to occur. Number 5. Constant restarting is draining your mental energy. Your brain has a limited capacity for cognitive effort. Not in the sense that it can only think for a few hours, but in the sense that starting is expensive. Every time you begin a task, your brain has to load context, activate relevant memory, suppress irrelevant stimuli, Commit resources. That initiation cost is high. Once momentum is established, the cost drops. Staying focused is cheaper than starting. The problem is that modern environments force you to restart constantly. Each interruption wipes the slate clean. When you come back, your brain has to pay the initiation cost again. Do that enough times and your energy gets burned without any meaningful progress. This is why you can feel mentally exhausted after a day where nothing particularly difficult happened. You didn't work hard, you started over repeatedly. Your brain wasn't allowed to amortize effort across time. It kept paying the most expensive cognitive cost over and over. Eventually, your brain adapts. It starts resisting initiation entirely, not because it's lazy, but because it learned that starting rarely leads to completion. Number 4, overstimulation lowers your attention ceiling. Attention has a ceiling. There is a maximum intensity and duration your brain can sustain before it needs recovery. Constant high-stimulation environments raise your baseline arousal level. That sounds helpful. It isn't. When baseline stimulation is high, ordinary tasks stop registering as engaging. Your brain needs stronger input just to feel activated. This is the same principle behind tolerance. What once felt stimulating now feels flat. What once held your attention now feels dull. So your brain compensates by seeking more input. Faster, louder, more novel. The attention ceiling doesn't rise, it collapses. Your brain becomes harder to engage and harder to satisfy at the same time. This creates a specific feeling. Mentally busy, emotionally flat, chronically restless. You're not understimulated, you're overstimulated past your usable range. Number 3, shallow attention becomes your default mode. Brains are efficient. They adapt to what works. If deep focus is repeatedly interrupted, the brain stops attempting it. Why invest resources in a state that never stabilizes? So your brain switches strategies. It stays shallow. Instead of committing fully, it skims. Instead of engaging deeply, it samples. This feels like loss of control. It isn't. It's adaptation. Your brain learned that depth is risky and temporary. Shallow attention is safer. You can exit at any moment. You're never fully invested. Interruption doesn't cost as much. The downside is that nothing sticks. You read but don't absorb. You listen but don't retain. You work but don't feel completion. This is not a focus problem. It's a mode shift. Your brain switched from depth mode to surveillance mode, always ready to pivot, never fully present. Number 2, your sense of time is breaking down. Attention is how the brain measures time. When attention is sustained, time feels slower but more solid. Moments register, experiences leave marks. When attention is fragmented, time collapses. Hours disappear without memory. Days blur together. Weeks pass without clear anchors. This isn't because time is moving faster. It's because your brain isn't encoding experience deeply enough to register it. Memory formation depends on attention at the moment of encoding. If attention is partial, the memory is partial. If attention is scattered, the memory is weak or non-existent. Your phone didn't steal your time. It prevented your brain from marking it. That's why you can be busy all day and still feel like nothing really happened. Your brain was active but not engaged. Without sustained attention, experiences don't consolidate. They dissolve. This creates a specific psychological effect. You feel behind even when you're not. You feel rushed without knowing why. You feel like you're always catching up. Time stops feeling like something you move through. It starts feeling like something slipping past you. And the more that happens, the more anxious you become. Not because of what you're doing, but because you can't account for where the time went. Number 1, you're losing trust in your own attention. This is the deepest damage. When attention keeps breaking, you stop trusting it. You expect distraction before it happens. You anticipate boredom before engagement has a chance to form. You assume focus will fail, so you interrupt it preemptively. I'll just check quickly. I'll come back to this. I can't focus anyway. Those thoughts feel practical. They're corrosive. Because once you stop trusting your own attention, you stop giving it the conditions it needs to recover. You don't sit through discomfort long enough for momentum to build. You don't tolerate boredom long enough for depth to emerge. You don't commit long enough to experience completion. Your identity starts to shift. I'm bad at focusing. My brain doesn't work like that. I need constant stimulation. Those statements feel honest because they describe your current state. They are not permanent traits. They are learned expectations. Your brain adapted to an environment that rewarded interruption, responsiveness, and novelty. Then you internalize the outcome as a personal limitation. That's the final trick. The environment rewires your attention, then convinces you the result is who you are. Your attention span didn't disappear. It was trained away from you. Your brain did exactly what it was supposed to do under constant stimulation. Stay alert, stay flexible, stay ready to switch. The problem is that those traits are incompatible with depth, meaning, and sustained focus. And the longer this runs, the more normal it feels. Until you forget what uninterrupted attention ever felt like,